Hello, welcome to Julie K. Kettles channel. That's my name. Sometimes it sounds like I'm saying cuddles, but I'm talking about kettles like a teapot or Kettles chips. So I have a question for you. I would love your input on this today. Do you agree with the following statement? Grief is easier when death was expected. Your grief or anybody's grief is easier when death is expected. In other words, it's an anticipated death because of cancer or some other reason that the person is, you have some time or maybe a long time that they're, they're going to die. So that's one thing I'd like your input on if you believe that or agree with that. Second one is if the deceased lived a long life, your grief is easier. If the deceased lived a long life, to be old, like my dad's almost 90, grief is easier. Do you agree with that? Yes or no? Love your comments. Love your comments for any of these. And the third one is if your loved one was suffering before they died, the grief process is less or easier. So if the loved one was suffering, was in a lot of pain, and now they're gone, so you say at least they're out of their suffering, that means your grief is definitely easier. Do you agree with that? So I'd really would love your input on the comments. Please comment on one of those at least. So kind of a way to summarize that would be to say that certain types of loss are worse or easier than other ones. Like guaranteed easier, or always easier, or automatically easier. Any of those, would you agree with that? Well, let's think about this. Am I a unique person? Is there anybody else just like me? No. Even my thumbprint's different. Your thumbprints. Are you unique? Yes. Is anybody ever, even long time ago or in the future, ever going to be exactly like you? I don't believe so. Nobody has even the same fingerprint. Every one of us have different looks, genetics, personalities, gifts, on and on and on, right? We can go on about that. So if every person is different, is every situation a little different then? Even though we can find common ground, yes, and we can relate to certain people with things we go through, definitely, because in a sense, the problems we have in this life, nothing's new under the sun, right? But is every situation exactly the same? No. If every person is different, and every person's location, relationships, house, place they live, everything, every one of that is a unique package, completely unique. So then every situation is different. So then can you say that every loss is the same? Or any loss is the same? Can we compare ourselves to each other? Not really, right? And so if every person's different, every situation's different, every loss is different, then can we make blanket statements like the ones I said? Where like you can guarantee that, where you can say, well, if you go to, this is true of even like a store, right? Or like I'm thinking fast food, like McDonald's tends to take more time, I think, but can you say, well, McDonald's is always slow in their service, their drive-through service, or they're always fast. We really can't say this about anything, can we? So this is what Gary Roe, who's one of the experts that's a mentor to me, says: every person-loss situation is unique. It's not helpful or wise to compare losses. Now, I would say that's true it's not helpful or wise to compare losses from like mine to yours, or yours to mine, or my best friend, or my husband even. We both lost our daughter, right? Because that's his daughter and that's my daughter. And we're married. We both lost our daughter, but did he experience it exactly the same as me? Definitely not. So it's not helpful to compare us to each other or to others, but we tend to do that. So that's something I want to bring to your attention, is encourage you not to compare. It's not helpful. But what about comparing your losses to your own losses? So for example, like I said, the person lived a long life, right? So my mom died, it's been about 4 years now. So, because she died almost exactly a year before my daughter did, in 2018. So she lived to be 83 and my dad's 89. So if my dad dies tomorrow and my mom is 83, and there's people that die a lot even closer in age than that, right? Should I be saying, well, my mom's death wasn't that hard, not as hard as I thought it was going to be, so my dad's is going to be the same? Should I say that? Can I say that? And is it helpful to say that? I don't think so. I don't think it's helpful, because even within yourself, each person's losses are different. So say you lost an aunt who died of cancer and it took a long time before she died, and now your cousin is in the same situation. Do you think you can assume that loss is going to be the same? You're going to be affected the same? It's not smart to even do that. So that's part of my message today, is to say that. And what I have to say is, in my own words, is don't assume that any situation is easier for someone else or for yourself. Don't assume it. Assuming is actually, I look it up because I love looking up words, it's supposed to be the case without proof. When you just assume, you suppose, like, this is going to happen, this is the way it's going to be, and you don't have any proof that is how it's going to be. You don't have any proof. It's having a high expectation is kind of what assumptions are. Only it can be worse, because maybe I have an expectation, I have a hope that something good's going to happen in my life, but I know it may not. So then at least I'm realistic about it. But an assumption usually is like, bam, I really think that's going to happen. That's the way it is. So that's some food for thought here today that I wanted to share. And for just a quick example, if you're watching my channel, you do know that my daughter died in March of 2020. If you don't and you haven't heard my story, please put in Heidi into the title of, because I'm pretty sure I've put Heidi in every time, or my daughter or Heidi into the title of anything on my channel, and you'll see some of my stories about her, so you can know my story. But if I would have assumed that she well, I mean, none of these are true with my daughter, okay, but if I would have assumed that I would be over her death already, I'd be fine by now. I wouldn't be ready for the grief bursts when they come, because they have. In fact, I've experienced more heavy grief later, like more towards now than I did even at the beginning. And that goes into a lot about grief and how you're numb, you're in shock, you're dealing with all kinds of things, so you don't always feel it. But does it have partly to do with the fact that I wasn't close to her? I think could be part of it, and the fact that she lived in Tennessee for a few years, and we didn't see each other a lot. That could be part of it, but she's my daughter. I gave birth to her. So, again, don't try to figure it out. If I assumed that I would be over her death right now, let's say, I would not be as prepared for the fact that I might get hit even harder with all of a sudden it all coming up in a grief burst or something triggering me, and I may feel depressed all over again, and I'll be like, what? I thought I was over it. I'm supposed to be over it. So these are things that doesn't help us to be prepared. It doesn't help us to learn what we need to do to be prepared. If we assume there's going to be no more hurricanes in Florida, which is where I'm at, no more hurricanes, or they predict a mild season, and I just slough it off and I don't do anything to prepare, that could be really bad, right, if there was a hurricane. So that's a good example to compare it to. But this is true with us, because our souls and our emotions and our mind and our mental health is very important. So that's what I wanted to share today, is don't assume that any situation or any certain loss or anything in life, because I like to speak to everybody, whether you're in grief or not. Any situation, it's just when we assume, it doesn't help. It doesn't prepare us for what might happen or what is going to happen, nor does it help us to learn and prepare ourselves for life, which I think is a wise thing to do. I like thinking about preparing myself for things in life. I want to be prepared. I don't want to look back and be upset with myself because I didn't prepare for certain things in life. So I want to share, the verse I want to share today is Romans 12:12. And it is short and simple, but powerful. It says, rejoice in hope, be patient in tribulation, or we could say trouble, suffering, tribulation, grief. And then the third one is be constant in prayer. So there's three commands. Rejoice in hope, be patient in tribulation, and be constant in prayer. So all three of those are so important. Rejoicing, being joyful in hope. So if we're not just saying I hope, if we're saying I hope and we mean I wish, think about it. You go, well, I hope that'll happen. And you could end up replacing that word with wish, then you're probably not showing or distributing biblical, Bible-based hope, true hope that has faith behind it. Okay? Constant in prayer, yes, we need to be constant in prayer, and I'm not anywhere near perfect on that. How about you? But I want to highlight that be patient in tribulation. Be patient in suffering, tribulation, loss, grief, whatever it is, trouble. Tribulation means trouble. And anything that really bothers us or is hard on us is trouble. Whether it's just, whether it's losing a loved one, whether it's losing a job, whether it's having to move, whether it's having trouble with your kids, having trouble in your marriage, whatever it is, it's trouble, is one word to use. So this is saying being patient in it. So I wanted to read that with what I'm sharing today, because sometimes, I know somebody in our grief group, when we talked about this the other night, she admitted, like, I want the grief to be over because it hurts so bad. Well, this woman's had multiple losses, but she just lost a friend back last November. That's not that long ago. And she thought maybe she should be over it. But bottom line, what she said was, she was honest. She's like, I want to be over with it because it hurts too much. Because this person, the man, was a really good friend of hers. So she really misses him. So, sometimes we want something to be true because we just want it to be true for whatever reason, right? That doesn't mean it's true. So being patient in tribulation, trouble, or suffering is helping, I think that's a good way to say, like, know that it may continue, don't assume it's over, and ask God for his strength. And being patient is a fruit of the Spirit. So being patient is actually going to help you more than rushing something. Being patient helps all of us to keep hoping and keep going instead of losing our hope because we're impatient. So that's why I wanted to read that verse today. And so I want to encourage you, if you look behind me, I don't point correctly here, but behind me is a QR code. That is to my website, juliek.org. I'm excited that I've had it revamped. I need to keep working on it. I need to keep making it better. I've learned more recently that websites should be worked on a regular basis, adding new information, etc., etc. But this was a pretty big overhaul of mine because I finally got on there about the fact that I'm a speaker and my mission, which is GAP. So look on there. I want to ask you to go to my website, if you would please. Do me a favor, go to my website, check it out. Let me know what you think of the GAP acronym that I'm using for my mission statement. It's shown on a couple different pages. Let me know what you think about my website. Get my free gift if you want to on there, or set up a complete consult because the link is on there as well. But I would love your input, especially on the speaker page and the different speeches and some of the things I say on there. So if you're willing to take some time to do that, love your input. If you have any suggestions for me, you think it might make it better, I would love to hear from you on that. And you can do that through not through the messaging here or the comments, please, but PM me at Julie Kettles, just Julie Kettles, Julie, JolieKettles, like a teapot or Kettles chips. I would love your input, and I'm so glad you're here. Please share this video out if you want to, and I look forward to your comments on what you believe about what I was sharing today. So yeah, I'm kind of asking a lot today, but I would love to get to know you. Bye-bye. Signing off, Julie K, helping you find your way. This means I love you in sign language. All right, bye-bye.